Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Black Adam, number 2 would be Halloween Ends, number 3 would be Ticket to Paradise, number 4 would be Smile, and number 5 would be Lyle Crocodile. And I got 2 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. But the funny thing is that it's not the exact 2 you might be thinking of. Obviously, the obvious one is Black Adam, right? But the other one is actually quite surprising, and I think it might surprise all of you too. You know, looking in the comments, everyone was really putting their money on, either Halloween Ends still doing very well or Ticket to Paradise underperforming, and it kind of flipped, the expectations for both. So no one got their predictions right for this weekend. And a little reminder, if, you leave a comment and then you want to change your predictions, do not edit the comment, because it makes it confusing for the Sunday when I have to go through them. If I see edited and you're correct and it's like, well, this could have literally been like seconds ago, you know what I mean? and especially since, my time of checking because of balancing my work schedule, is different. So I'm not going to be able to see comments right away. So if I check like at 5 p.m. and I see someone has already edited the comment, it's like, well, maybe this was their initial prediction, but I literally have no way of verifying that. So if you ever want to change your predictions before the official weekend, I always say it's like at least Friday is the off limits, stop commenting, but if you do want to change your predictions, just delete the original comment and then post a new one. Doesn't matter. Don't edit. Anyways, let's go over what actually happened. Number 1 was Black Adam, of course, but there's a lot of stats that are kind of backing this to make this an even bigger kind of success, more of a newsworthy kind of story. So let's talk about Black Adam here. It made $67 million this weekend, which is a very solid start, especially when you look at the worldwide total. It has also accumulated on a budget of $195 million. Very close to 200. It might as well, be 200, but it has a worldwide opening of 140 million. That's very good. That's a very solid start. They will definitely double their budget and, potentially triple it. They're going to make a lot of money off of this. But what's also interesting is all the other stats that accompany it. So if you want to look at just DC right now, not only did this movie open higher than Shazam's 53 million opening weekend, obviously the direct tie-in is that Black Adam is a Shazam villain. They get their powers from the same place. So this opening a little higher than Shazam is obviously a bit of a good sign. Maybe this is also another good sign for Fury of the Gods. People are thinking like, oh, well, now that Black Adam's here, maybe there will be, some kind of tease for that. Maybe we need to go see Shazam too. So that could bid well for that movie when that comes out in March. But also this movie opened about as much as Aquaman did. When we get the official numbers, we'll know just by how much, but 67 million, that range, so, not one of the greater openings for a DC film. Obviously there's been much bigger, but, this is still a solid debut. It's like right in that middle spot where it's not bad either, and hey, maybe Black Adam, because of, critic-wise, it didn't do that well on Rotten Tomatoes, but audience score on Cinema Score is like a B+, and like in the 90s on Rotten Tomatoes, so word of mouth from fans, from the, regular audience, not necessarily critics, will probably be talking about it, probably, recommending it for people like, oh yeah, it's a pretty good fun time. If you don't want to see something scary, you want to take the kids to see something, sure, why not this? It's, he's a villain, he kills people, but it's, not necessarily R rating or traumatizing. He's funny, PG-13, goes take the family. So, that could bode well for it. I'm not saying that Black Adam will have the miraculous kind of staying power that Aquaman did when that released, because that movie went on to grow so much money. Like, it was literally $1 billion worldwide, and it was so crazy because it was like, really, fucking Aquaman did that? The butt of the joke for a lot of this? It just goes to show, you never know. I don't know if Black Adam will have that, but I think, especially with what people are talking about with the certain big reveal that has already been spoiled by everyone, including the main star and producer, Dwayne Johnson. I think people will at least be sticking around in the next couple weeks to see that. It's definitely going to make a lot of money. Going on with more Dwayne Johnson specific stats. This is the highest opening weekend with him as a leading man. So not him in a supporting role or him a part of a larger ensemble. So like Fate of the Furious wouldn't count because he's kind of a lead, but so is Vin Diesel and, some of the other crew on there. So yeah, part of an ensemble. So this is him, and obviously the Justice Society makes up the ensemble, but he is still the very clear leading man of the piece. The title character is him. He is literally the title character, so for him being a leading man, this is his highest opening weekend. That's very good. It's not his overall highest opening. That is still Furious 7's 147 million, but, for leading man specific, this is still very good for him and shows that he can still, drag an audience to him. And as far as how he's doing with some of his other films right now, financially, all you really need to know is that it is 1 million away from outgrossing the entire domestic run of Skyscraper. So, that this is going to be ending up one of his highest grossing films, even if it isn't, necessarily his highest opening weekend, so that's very fantastic for the man. Worldwide, he needs 6 million to outgross The Game Plan, which obviously isn't as interesting a statistic, I guess, but I guess it is, it's outgrossing all of his other family films. I guess the more interesting one is that, even some of his newer ones that have kind of underperformed, like Skyscraper, Rampage to a certain extent, and even DC League of Super Pets, this is going to wipe the floor with all of those. If we're talking about, some of the other Rock filmography, we should probably jump back to DC and talk about how it's ranking in some of the other movies as well. It's 17 million away from outgrossing the entire domestic run of Birds of Prey, and it has already outgrossed The Suicide Squad by 12 million and Wonder Woman 1984 by $21 million. So we'll be seeing this rise in the ranks as well. Worldwide, it is 26 million away from outgrossing Wonder Woman 84 and 27 million from outgrossing The Suicide Squad. Obviously, the thing about those two movies is that they're pandemic releases, Wonder Woman more so, and then The Suicide Squad was day and date when people were getting out of the pandemic or getting more comfortable with theaters. Warner Brothers did that stupid thing where they also played it on HBO Max the same day. So obviously not too many people showed up to the theater for that. So it's kind of unfair to kind of compare oh yeah, that's doing way better than this movie. Cause it's different release model, different time as well. That's exactly a year ago. Now it's 2022, So whatever, different reasons for everything. I want to talk about Wame Colette-Serra as well real quick before we move on. Cause he's the director of this film. He directed Dwayne and Jungle Cruise, and it still has a way until it outgrosses that, but this movie is just plowing through all of his other films. Let's just break it down domestically. This is his highest opening weekend, and it needs 24 million until it outgrosses Nonstop, and then the next one is Jungle Cruise, but it has already outgrossed House of Wax by 35 million, Orphan by 26, Unknown by 4, Run All Night by 41 million, Shallows by 12, and The Commuter by 31. That is incredible. And then when you go to worldwide, it's already outgrossed the same list of films, but this time House of Wax is by 70, Orphan by 62, Unknown still by 4 million, crazy, Run All Night by 69, Shallows 22, and Commuter 22 million, and it still has a way until it outgrosses Nonstop. And obviously, it's very obviously going to outgross the other Wame Colette-Serra ones because, Nonstop didn't make as much money as Jungle Cruise. This movie is right on it. And Jungle Cruise was also a pandemic release of, it's in theaters, and it did pretty decently in theaters, but it was also day and date on Disney Plus for $30. So, kind of a difference there as far as what people did, not just like HBO Max is just streaming for free if you have HBO Max. Different stats, but, still same comparison. This movie's going to wipe the floor with that. Very interesting that this is going to be Wame Colette-Serra's highest grossing film. Obviously, I hope this is a good path for him to keep making the stuff that he loves, as much as I'm sure he must enjoy the big paydays from this big franchise stuff that he's been doing. Maybe he'll come back for another Black Adam or another Dwayne Johnson DC thing, who fucking knows, or maybe the next Jungle Cruise, but I hope he, doesn't completely abandon those wonderful little thrillers he also likes to make. So just overall, a really big, strong opening weekend for Black Adam, very big success. I think I remember when I talked about DC League of Super Pets at one point, and I might be making a person up. This could be entirely made up, so please keep that in mind. But I think I joked about because it was in the midst of Warner Brothers kind of, in the midst of the reports going that they're riding all their hopes on Black Adam and Don't Worry Darling, and I kind of joked because DC League of Super Pets wasn't doing well, oh, really? You want to ride the future success of Warner Brothers on Dwayne Johnson? You don't want to rethink that? And it's kind of a joke, But I think someone legit commented I can't believe you're seriously comparing DC League of Super Pets to Black Adam. It's it's a fucking joke. Really? My God. Anyways, enough of Black Adam. Let's move on to number 2, which is not Halloween Ends. It is Ticket to Paradise, doing a little bit better than you'd think, especially worldwide. I think I alluded to it last weekend where, worldwide numbers were already kind of in, and it was doing very well, surprisingly. Made $16 million this weekend on a budget of $60 million, so it needs 120 to be considered a success, the doubling point. But worldwide, it is already stacked up to $98 million. So literally all it needs grosses 22 million more until it gets to that doubling point, and then it'll, obviously continue to make more there. Very shocking, in a time where the rom-com isn't doing all that well. Obviously, it just goes to show you that you just need to make a specific kind of rom-com. You need legit A-list, almost kind of like legend actors in it, and you need, I guess, a bit more of an interesting hook, like, I can't believe I somehow keep going back to The Lost City for comparisons, but that was, oh my gosh, star power of Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock, and they're going on a little, like, Romancing of the Stone adventure. Okay, I guess I'll go see that, and that made a lot of money, surprisingly. And this one is, hey, George Clooney and Julia Roberts, legends, they've been in movies before, real life friends, they're doing one. It's like, oh, I love those actors, let's go see that, they're doing a rom-com. So it takes a specific amount of ingredients to make the rom-com work, and it might not be an exact science, but very, very interesting. But, hey, good for them, it was a decent enough movie. As far as the director's previous film, Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, it had an $18 million lower opening. It needs $104 million until it outgrosses that domestic run. Definitely not going to happen. And worldwide, it needs $301 million to do that. So also definitely not happening. But, that's not really the point. It doesn't really matter. This movie's already, kind of certified success. It doesn't need to outgross franchise musical Mamma Mia 2. Let's move on to number 3, which is still not Halloween Ends. It is Smile. Smile is still doing incredible. And I think I remember mentioning last weekend how, this could seriously be competing with Halloween Ends. And here we are now. Smile has completely slam dunked on Michael Myers. Made $8.3 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $84 million. So not only is that $16 million away from getting to $100 million domestically, which is incredible for an original horror film, but it just grossed $3 million over Scream 2022's entire domestic run. So it is now in the top 3 highest grossing films of this entire year, but it's about to become number 2 because all it needs to outgross The Black Phone is $5 million, and then its only competition is Nope. That is outstanding for this movie. That is outstanding. This movie does not even have, Black Phone is based off of a short story by Stephen King's son, so there's a, it's not like this movie did Nope numbers, but there's a little bit of like, oh, I understand why I would want to see that, and the promotion probably mentioning like, hey, it's from the director of Doctor Strange, Sinister, other movies. This movie didn't have that. All they had was that gimmick, the people in the baseball crowds and shit like that. And they are totally fucking winning, especially with word of mouth. It's incredible. I love seeing this. Worldwide, it is sitting at $166 million. It has already outgrossed Scream by $26 million, and it has already outgrossed The Black Phone by $5 million. And it needs $5 million until it outgrosses Nope. So this movie is legit about to be the highest grossing horror film of 2022 worldwide. And it's an original film. That is incredible, and Nope is obviously also an original film, but that, has the name of like Jordan Peele, like, oh yeah, Jordan Peele, so success, but this literally doesn't have that at all. It had Harold and or Kumar in like one shot of the marketing, and no one else, unless you know who Kevin Bacon's daughter is. I didn't, so it was like, holy shit, I am just so fucking happy. This gives me so much hope for the future. I hope that this can like expand to other genres other than horror. Like, hey, maybe we can get some other, like comedies or the rom-com or like original action movies and have word of mouth really carry it. And it does, very well. It continues to stay and make so much money, hold over well. I really want to see this more. And number 4, finally, we have Halloween Ends. So if you remember from last weekend, it opened with about $40 million. And this movie had a tremendous drop. I heard something where they were like, this is one of the worst, week-to-week drops that they have ever seen in Hollywood. And obviously premiering it on Peacock at the same time, especially in 2022. What the fuck are you doing? Did not help. It has dropped from like a $40 million opening to $8 million this weekend. So now that adds to a domestic total of $54 million. And on Wikipedia, they've kind of solidified, instead of doing that $20 to $30 million budget thing, they have now solidified it at 33. And worldwide, they're at 82. So it's still fine. It needs about 17 million more to triple that $33 million budget. It'll get that, with the combined domestic and worldwide. It's going to be fine financially. Don't be concerned about that. But I think it's just very shocking, because, in this, the cynical mind was like, for me, I was like, oh, well, yeah, it's the franchise kind of IP thing. So yeah, it's going to start rising in the horror ranks. Eventually maybe it might outgrow Smile or get close, whatever. So to see an original horror film that is legitimately fantastic dunk on this movie that, a part of a tired franchise where every time they try to do something new, there's other things that undercut it and they fall flat on their face. I'm just so happy to see that, original things are thriving. You know what I mean? Worldwide it is at $82 million as far as like the specific domestic and worldwide stats. Domestically, it needs $38 million until it outgrosses Halloween Kills. That's definitely not happening. Like at this point, you can't have a drop like that and then still expect to make $38 million to outgross a predecessor. That's an embarrassing loss right there. It did outgross the original movie by $7 million, so there you go. Worldwide, it needs $48 million more until it outgrosses Kills. I guess because worldwide is everything, there's a bit more of a chance of it doing it there, but still, it's like, this should be in the bag at this point, you know what I mean? It is $5 million over Rob Zombie's Halloween film worldwide and $12 million over the original movie, the John Carpenter original, so there's that. It's, obviously, it's doing the obvious things of outgrossing the older movies, you know what I mean? But when it comes to the newer ones, diminishing returns, absolutely, and it definitely does not help that Peacock did Day and Date. Holy shit, what were you thinking? Moving on to number 5, which is Lyle Crocodile, holding on for dear life in the top 5, but barely clinging there, making $4 million, adding to a domestic total of $28 million. So that's $1 million over the director's previous work, The Switch. So now it needs $26 million until it outgrosses Office Christmas Party, which is not gonna happen. It still needs to outgross The Switch worldwide. It is sitting at $36 million, and it needs $13 million to outgross The Switch there. And that's, considering how lackluster its staying power is, it's definitely just not gonna do that, It's just not the time for it right now, You have the Rock as your family film now, no one wants to see a singing crocodile voiced by Shawn Mendes, and especially in spooky season. So we're gonna talk about that too, a certain movie. We might be seeing some horror kind of rise up in the ranks next weekend, since it's, that's the weekend right before Halloween. And we might see some horror rise up, especially something we'll talk about in a bit after we talk about The Woman King at number 6, making $1.9 million, adding to a domestic total of $62 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $82 million, so $18 million away from doubling its $50 million budget. I just want to see them get there. If they can somehow cross this finish line before it leaves the top 10, that would be great. If I have to wait until award season, potentially. This isn't even a guarantee, like, oh yeah, it's a shoo-in for awards. It's like, potentially, it might get some traction there. Maybe it'll come back. We don't know. I wish we could have seen it hit 100 million before it left, but I guess there's still time. Smile is somehow rocking the world right now, you know what I mean? With impossible odds, and so is Ticket to Paradise while Halloween Ends crumbles, so maybe there is a chance for Woman King. I don't know. Let's just move on to the most interesting and another thing to celebrate with original horror right now. Number 7 is Terrifier 2. This is the sequel to the, original kind of crowdfunded horror film. So I kind of lump it in. It's similar to how like John Wick, became a franchise. Now we think of it as an IP, but when they announced those, when they were making 2 and 3, it was like so happy that this original kind of action movie has now sprung a whole new, franchise. That's great. You never really see that these days. It's always recycling the same shit or it's attached to something else. Terrifier is now kind of going down that road with indie horror audiences and maybe some mainstream one because people are talking about this movie. Some people are complaining about the gore and fainting and shit like that, but other people are like, man, this is fucking sick, It made $1.8 million this weekend. So this is higher than the 100,000 or so it was making on the other 2 episodes where it showed up. This is now bumped up to $1.8 million. Now its entire domestic total is at $5 million. So $5 million made on a budget of $250,000. What a fucking profit for these people behind this movie, Terrifier 3 is definitely getting made at this point. There ain't no fucking way, you know what I mean? They might not even need crowdfunding at this point, They might just, be gifted some small amount of money by some other, financier or something going like, okay, just do the same shit you've done with this money with the other 2 movies, but, make it good, you know what I mean? And that's just so fucking great. I'm just so happy that, this movie is really thriving because when I saw it in the theaters, I thought like, yeah, this audience here, the only people that are going to be seeing this movie, this isn't going to last very long, but no, here it is still 3 weekends later That's just so fucking cool. It's just so exciting. This and Smile are like, thinking about them, and not to make a pun, but thinking about them just really does put a smile on my face. That is fucking great. Number 8, Don't Worry, Darling. Now, these last 3 dipping into the 100,000s while Terrifier makes the million. That's crazy, you know? It's unheard of. This is historic, you know? It made $880,000 this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $44 million. Worldwide, it is now at $82 million. Like I said, with the Halloween season kind of right around the corner, because this is a thriller horror thing, maybe it'll slip back up a little bit, but, you know, the word of mouth hasn't been that great, and there's just so much drama surrounding, you know, this production, the people, specific people. Some people just might be tired of it, and the people who might have been really interested probably already saw it. So I don't know. Don't push your luck on this one, I guess. Number 9 is Amsterdam, of course, continuing to slip, making 818,000, adding to a domestic total of 13 million. It has outgrossed I Heart Huckabees by 1 million domestically, and it needs 1 million to outgross Flirting with Disaster. Worldwide, it is at 21 million. It has already outgrossed I Heart Huckabees by 1 million, and now the next thing it needs to outgross to rise up in the David O. Russell ranks is Three Kings, and they need 86 million to do that. So safe bet that that is not happening. Congrats, David. Amsterdam has outgrossed your lowest grossing movies, but cannot compete with your actual profitable ones. You know, this is kind of your fault, though. And closing out the video, because we don't need to talk about David O. Russell anymore. Closing out the video, number 10. This was a big shock, too. Triangle of Sadness. I guess this is the kind of number that you would expect for kind of like a limited release. It goes wide, I think, next weekend. Yeah, I'm seeing it next weekend. It goes wide next weekend. But I guess because, you know, these bottom numbers, these last 2 have already been 100,000s. You know, this one is kind of like, okay, yeah, it can slip into a top 10. Triangle of Sadness made $600,000 this weekend, which adds to a domestic total of 1.4 million. And I saw on the numbers, it seemed like the worldwide numbers weren't, you know, pushing it up that much, but I went on Box Office Mojo, Wikipedia. It says the worldwide total is at 4.8 million on a budget of 15.6. Obviously, you know, this is a solid start for an indie movie. I hope enough people go out to see it when it, you know, gets wide next weekend, but you never know, and chances are it probably won't. That's kind of unfortunately how a lot of these go, you know, but hey, you know, this is, you know, solid enough. Whether it has a 1 million worldwide or 4.8, I don't know. That's the conflicting report, though. But still, cool. Cool to see it sneak in here. And Top Gun is officially gone. Rest in peace. And Barbarian. Rest in peace. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. I'm going with number 1, Black Adam once again. Number 2, Pray for the Devil, because, you know, spooky season. I think some people will be interested to see this. It's about exorcism and creepy kids, so, you know, people want to see that. Number 3, I think Ticket to Paradise will cling on a little longer. Then number 4, I think will be Till. Especially around Halloween. I don't think I normally would think this would be the kind of movie to stick around, but considering this might have some awards potential, and, you know, a part of me wants to think that people might be, you know, pushed away from it just because, you know, emotionally they're like, I don't know if I can take this, but a part of me also wants to think that some people might want to go in and really honor the real story. So I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say it might get in at number 4. And then number 5, I think, will be Smile. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And remember, if you want to change your predictions, don't edit them. Just delete the original comment. Okay? Okay. And do it before Friday. On Friday, not doing it anymore. Okay. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.